So I'm just creating a new class, and in the class I'm just creating a class called car. Okay, finish. So I'm creating a class called car, and I don't have pretty much any information right now. So I'll just give the four different types that we're going to discuss today. One is encapsulation. So what is encapsulation? Four main pillars of object-oriented concepts. The first one is encapsulation. The second one is abstraction. You have abstract. The third one is inheritance. And the fourth one is polymorphism. Okay. So there are, four different things, four different pillars of object-oriented programming. So one is encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. So we will see all different types of things. We have seen polymorphism, but in different form. We will also see what are different types of polymorphism and how to do that. Okay. There is some spelling mistake. Okay, that's fine. So first we'll see encapsulation. Okay, encapsulation is nothing but hiding the data. So hiding the information or hiding the data is nothing but you're encapsulating the data. Means you are creating a layer of layer in which you put some data, and that data you cannot either read or write. So you have read permissions, write permissions, or you can read or write, right? So that kind of permissions can be done by something in Java. And if you do hide some data, then that hiding of data or hiding of information is called encapsulation. So how can we do encapsulation in Java? Okay, so how can we do encapsulation in Java? Using something called private variable, correct? If you give something private, you cannot see that outside, outside this class. So we create a private variable, say private color, a private string. What is the color of the car? Okay, that is a variable, this variable. So you cannot see this variable outside. So now if you want to just, like, say, for this variable, if you just wanted to give access to only read, okay, you can create something called two methods which are called getters and setters. You can directly create them by right clicking on the by just doing a right click on the variable, or if you just click on the variable, you see there is a methods, two methods you can create. One is called getter method, the other method is called setter method. Okay, just click on that method and highlight it. You will just see two methods. One is getter and other one is setter. So the get method will get the value that is present in this memory location. Okay, you have a private variable. If you just want to read the variable, you just write a method which is a get method. Public means this is public is something which is like you can see anywhere. The return type of the method is string because the variable is string. The method name is get color because you're trying to fetch the value of the color and you are returning the color, but you don't have any value here. So you can set some color is equal to by default. So you have, say, a white color, and for example you don't have this method. This method is not present. Okay, so now this method becomes only to read the information, correct? You can only read. How can you update the value? There is no way you can update this color to any other color, because by default this color has been set to white, and you cannot change that color because you don't have permissions to write to this variable, because this is private, and you can access that variable only to read the variable, because you can just read from this. Can you write to into this variable? Because there is no way that you can write a method to do that also, but generally speaking, you are not allowed here because your set method is commented now, and it will never allow you to update this information. So it is just you can read this information, but you cannot write this information, means, or you cannot update this information. So you are restricting your variable access by using a private variable, and creating a methods called getter method and setter method. So what you are trying to do is you are encapsulating the data, and you are making sure that you are not giving access to the outsiders, or you will give access only the way you wanted, okay, whether you have to read or whether you have to write. So those access you can just provide, and you can just leave those things. So those kind of things are the way the data is hidden in Java is called nothing but encapsulating the data. So now let's say, for example, now let's try to read this information. Okay, we create one more class which is called main class. In this I create a main method. So here I create a object car C1 is equal to new car, and C1 dot, if I put, I can only read the color because I cannot see the variable because it is private. I cannot write to the method because there is no method now. I've just commented it. I can only read the color, whatever the color that is provided. That is C1 dot whatever the get color. So the color, whatever you have given, you can read it. So that you can also print out. You can using sysout. So using sysout, you can just print the color that you have given by default in that class. So it all depends on the logic. In testing, we might not use much because this in the way that we use in testing, we don't provide some variables which needs to be accessed. But in development, sometimes we might need some variables which doesn't need to be changed, and you need to hide some data. So you can only like say for example, you have an interest rate, right? Interest rate is consistent, you don't change it often. You can only read the interest rate, but you can never, I mean, the percentage of interest. So that thing you can only read, but you cannot update it. Like a user cannot update it, user can only read it. So there are some things user can only read data, or some things user can only update data. Like you're creating a form, and you want to insert some data, you can only insert, but you cannot fetch someone's data or read someone's data while creating a form. So those kind of things in development can be possible by using encapsulating your data, by using private variables and having public methods to read that information. But in testing, I don't really see we do encapsulations and stuff. But if very rare situations where you will be hiding some data, because in testing we are not you doing a pure development. But if you want, you can do by following the norms. Okay, so if you see here now, if I just run this program, so you can just see the color, but there is no way that I could update it. So for example, now if I have to update the color, so I can have this method also visible. Now I have both read and write permissions. I have enabled both read and write permissions. Now what I could do, I can just say C1 dot set color, and whatever the color that I wanted to update, like say blue, I can update, and now I can see whether it is updated or not. So now I have both permissions. I can write to the color, I'm updating the color C1 dot color by using the C1 dot set color, and also I'm reading using C1 dot get color. So now I have both read and write permissions. If I just wanted to have only the permissions of write and not read, I can just comment out this method, so that I can have only permissions of, now I can only write to the method, write to the variable, but I cannot read from it because this is now done. I can only set it to blue. I can only do, I can just write to the variable, I can just write to the file, but I cannot read the file. I cannot see the contents, what it is there. So that is also possible, but by having only one method which can set it, but you cannot read it. So, these are like, you can either read, either write or read write. Both three things are possible. How can you do that? For a variable, wherever you are storing the information, you create it as private, and you create two methods. One is called getter, and the other one is called setter method. In the setter method, whatever the color that you are passing from the outside, you set to this color. This dot color is equal to color. This here refers to this class, because the same variable name color is used here and also used here. It is just differentiating between the local variable to the class level variable. So this string color is a local variable, that is this color, and the class level color is differentiated with this way. This is the keyword dot color is nothing but this one. So what it is doing, the color that you have sent is set to the color that is present in this class. In the same way, the color that is present here, you can fetch and read it. So that's how you can read write. Any questions?
No, I'm good, Bharat.
Amrita? No.
I'm good.
Uma?
Yes, sir. Bharat, I'm good.
Okay, this is encapsulation. So we are encapsulating the data by using a private variable and two public methods. So generally, if you see plain old Java object, something like, they call it as Pojo. If you see that is nothing but a private variable with two setters and getter is nothing but it's called plain old Java object. Mostly in a norm in a strong conventions, like people who are writing the code in Java will make every variable private, and they create two methods to read these variables. It's just a convention. That doesn't mean that we have to follow it, but it's good to follow kind of a thing, because everyone follows a standard. It's better to us to follow the same standard. So this is called encapsulation. So we will see the next one we'll see is polymorphism. Then we'll go to inheritance, and then we'll go to abstraction. The polymorphism, there are two types of polymorphism. One polymorphism we have already seen. Uh, One polymorphism we have already seen, that is um, like, say for example, I have another class, new other class. Here I'm trying to do add info. Okay, I'll just create this class as add info. Here I wanted to add anything that comes into the pic, like anything that to anything that comes into the like I wanted to add two strings. I should be able to add. I have to add two numbers. I should be able to add. I have to add two like decimals. I have to add. So generally we create methods public. So whatever void add is the function name. I can add string s1 comma string s2. Add string is nothing but we are concatenating the strings, means like you are joining the strings. Okay, so and then you say return, or you can say sysout. So s1 plus s2. Okay, you're just joining the strings and you are printing it in the same fashion. In We have seen already this one. This is called function overloading. So we are seeing it again. Um, okay, so here I can add integers, int number one, int number two. Okay, so I can add two integers, int number one and number two. I can add two decimals. uh, I'll just put float for example. I'll take these three examples. Okay, I can add float, I can add integers, I can add string. Okay, see, we have the same function name, but based on the input parameters, it will change and it will call the function name based on what you are passing as the input. For example, I'm creating an object for this one. Okay, so add info a1 is equal to new add info. I created an object. So now a1 dot, I see only one function which is add. So there is only name of the function is one called add, And when I pass two strings, like say SW, sorry, SW, comma, uh, EAT. So now I just run this, then it will directly find out that this add is, based on the parameters, it will call the function which is adding two strings. If I call passing two integers, it use the same function name a1 dot add, but you can pass 1 comma 2. It will call with two integers because there is another function which can do that. So in the same fashion, I will say a1 dot add 2.1. So it automatically changed to float. So 2.2. So you can also add, like let's put double. So you can also add two things with using double. Okay. So here just 2.1 and 2.2. By using 2.1 and 2.2, instead of float, I've just used double. So otherwise, if you give f, right, it will become float. You can also do that. So you can just give 2.1 f and give f here, so it will become float. You can use the same name of the function, but you, based on the call, it will figure that out, like whether you are trying to add two numbers or two strings or two decimals or two float. So based on whatever you pass to the method, the Java will go and find out whether what method in out of these four should be called based on the input parameters. So because here the same function name can do different things because it is polymorphism, correct? So this, it can take four forms. What the same function name can take four forms. What forms it can take? It can take a form which can add two integers. It can take a form which can add two numbers. It can take a form which can add two decimal, two double values, or two float values. But based on the call, it will change that form in the compile time. So that's why it is called compile time polymorphism. Means you can change the information within this class. I mean, the add function will change based on the input parameters that you pass within this class whenever you're calling it. So that's called compile time polymorphism. Means the form of add will be decided when the compiler understands that what, based on what you are trying to add. So and one more thing here, if you see here, the other thing, the plus symbol that you are using here it will append the strings because it's just the same plus symbol. It will append the strings. In the same plus symbol here, it will add the numbers. Here plus is acting as a polymorph thing because the Java will understand if you pass with a plus two strings, it should append it, and with the plus, if you have passed two numbers, it should add it. So you are not doing anything, but in Java, it is in runtime. It is making sure it is polymorphed such that the plus symbol can be used for both addition and also joining the string. So in the same fashion here also, the add symbol, add function can be used for multiple things, multiple forms, but the form will be decided based on the values that you passed at the compile time. So this is one way of, there are a couple of polymorphisms. Polymorphism is the same thing having multiple forms. So these are the two examples. Like the plus is one example which has different forms. Here add function is one example. It is called overloading. So overloading is nothing but the same function having multiple forms based on the input parameters that you are passing. So this one is called method overloading. Okay, we have already discussed this in one of the class, but I'm just repeating it. So this is also one of the example for polymorphism. There is another example which is called overriding. So we'll discuss in while discussing the inheritance. But just understand the polymorphism is nothing but we have a same name or same symbol or same thing which can be having a multiple. It can change its form based on the input or based on the condition. So then that thing is called polymorphism, and Java supports polymorphism, which is one of the pillar of object oriented programming. The main advantage is you doesn't need to create add string, add int, add something. So it figures out all those things and it will make sure that it can form an object based on what you are giving it. Any questions?
I'm good, Bharat.
Um,
I'm good too.
okay, cool. Okay, the next concept that we are going to discuss is inheritance. Okay, so the one that is inheritance. By general rule, everyone knows inheritance is like, for example, some of the property, like, so we get some of the inherited behaviors from our parents, right? The same way here also we inherit something from a thing called parent class, and we something we'll have something called child class. So we will see what is inheritance. So I am having a base class. Base class is nothing. Base class or something, anything. I say base class, which is called parent class. So this is I'll put as parent. Okay, I'll just here I'll just mark it as parent class or base class. So whatever we call it as. Okay, we have a class called car. So I'll have another class called Honda car. I'll have another class called um, Hyundai, and I'll have these two, Honda, Hyundai, and then I have a base car class. Okay, so now every design that we do for a car normally follows a general rule. I mean, every car model that we have in the current market follows a general consistent model from something from car called car. But you have a base design which is called car, plus you might have extra features which makes it as a Honda car. You have a base design which is called car plus some extra features which makes that as Hyundai car, correct? So you have the base design which is a called common design, which we call as a car. It can be any car, pretty much all most of the things like tires, body, or seats, everything will be common. Like, say for example, one might have GPS, one might have moonroof. For example, Hyundai might have a different engine, Honda might have a different engine, so you might have different things, but the common design is still which will follow 90% to 100% of the norms of the car. So maybe one with something a little change, or some without any change, you will still get the all the properties from the parent. Here the parent is car. Okay, so we have car which has all the properties, which has all the parental design that should be present, and from that you have two childs, one is Honda car and one is Hyundai car, and you get all the properties that are present, all are some. Okay, it's not every time common. You can either get all or some of the properties from the car to Honda car, and you can get all or some of the properties to Hyundai car, and you can have plus additions here. Okay, so it means you are inheriting some information, or you're getting some information which is present as common for both Honda and Hyundai from a class called car. Okay, so you are inheriting something from a car object to Honda and to Hyundai. How can we do that? So you can use some keyword called extends keyword, extends car, and you can say for Hyundai also extends car. Okay, so you have two child classes, both the child classes Honda and Hyundai coming from the same parent, which is called car, and all the behaviors or some of the behaviors of the car will be inherited to both Honda and Hyundai. So now what are the behaviors that can be inherited? So let's say for example I have a variable public. What is the common, you'll have for every car you'll have a color. Okay, I have color. Okay, so you have public, you have number of tires. Okay, or you can just say tire brand or whatever it is. So you'll have that as a string. So a car will have engine, and then public string body, or I'll say body model, and then public int number of wheels, you will have wheels. So this is small p, and this is, and then you will have public void methods, the behavior void accelerate. Okay, and then you can have public void break or whatever, different methods. Okay, so you'll have the same behaviors for all the cars. You will have the same behaviors. You will have brake, you will have accelerate car. So you have Honda car extends car and Hyundai car extends car. Okay, now let's see what is, how does it, how the behavior looks. I'm creating another class which is called main class again here. Okay, I'll create an object of the car. Car C1 is equal to new car semicolon C1 dot, if I put, okay, I should have a method. C1 dot car C1 is equal to new car C1 dot, if I put, see here I'm seeing all the methods and all the all body, color, engine, tire, wheels, accelerate car, brake car. So I can see all the properties for all car, whatever, the properties that we have given. I can see all the properties. Okay, so now for example, if I create Honda car H1 is equal to new Honda car. Okay, so if I say H1 dot, still I can see all the things, because all the properties that are there, or some of the properties that are present in the base car, can be inherited to the child classes. So whatever the methods, whatever the variables that are present here is automatically are completely contained within Honda car. So even though you don't have any functions or anything that is here, still if you see here H1 dot, you can see all the things that are present in the base car. Same way with Hyundai car also. This is another car. Yeah, I think this is spelling mistake, but it's okay. So if I say H2 dot, so you see everything, all the properties that are present in the car has been given to Honda, has been given to Hyundai, because they both extend the car, means extend everything that is present in the car, or some of the things that are present in the car. So if, even though if you don't have any content that is present in the Honda or Hyundai, because it follows the base model car, all the properties of the car has been already inherited, and you can see all the functions, all the variables that are present in the car to Honda and Hyundai. So means you are, if you are just inheriting all the properties from the parent, and those that properties are already present within the child, and the child can all access all the methods and the variables of the parent. So because why you can do that, because you are inherited from the parent, and because you are inherited from the parent using a keyword called extends, so you get all the functionality from the parent to the child. So this is basic inheritance. Any questions?
No, Bharat.
No, but I'm good too.
Okay, from here it will become complex, but you need to be very careful. Just understand, but you read it today or tomorrow only. Okay. So now the car, what cannot be inherited. Okay. If I give private here, okay, and if I give private here, the private is to only to this class, or only to this person, or only to this object. You cannot inherit anything that is called private, correct? So if I say I can do full or half, or some of the properties can only be inherited, which cannot be inherited is something called private. You cannot inherit private things. Even if you're having a parent car, and there are some things that are marked as private, and you cannot inherit private things to the child objects. Okay, so now if you see, if you go and say c1 dot color cannot be inherited because, or cannot be seen by itself here itself because it's a private variable. When you cannot see here only, you cannot, obviously you cannot see in here also. H1 dot color is not possible because it is private and those things cannot be inherited. Okay, the private variables or the private function, public private functions cannot be inherited from the child class to parent class, only public ones, or there is something called protected. Okay, you can either do the private ones cannot be inherited. The only things that can be inherited is public and protected. So you can mark it as protected. Protected can be inherited even if they are within this package or within the different package. Anywhere you can, if you mark it as protected, that means you can, if you are doing an inheritance, only in inheritance you will give, okay, it will give those things to other class that is calling it. So that's why there is another access modifier, public, private, default. Default is within the package, you can see, right? So default is not used much. If you're using protected, that means you can inherit that variable wherever you are calling, like extends keyword, it will get inherited everywhere wherever you call with an extends keyword. That's why, this keyword is reserved for, protected is reserved for doing inheritance. Okay, if you do private, you cannot even see, or you cannot even inherit it. You can only inherit the value or variable or method when it is protected or public. Sometimes people will not give public because it can be accessible by anyone. You can just give protected to make sure inheritance is properly done. I mean, if you don't want to make it too much visible, you can make it as protected. So public is visible to everyone, protected is visible to only its inherited class. Okay, that is the difference. You can, wherever you inherit, you can see that variable. Public, you can see everywhere. So that's the difference between protected and public. So what you cannot inherit is private. Okay, so now if you see c1 dot, you can see c1 dot, you can see, so if you put c1 dot, you cannot see the color because it is private. If you see tire brand, it is in yellow color because it is, see here, it is protected. And even I can see the protected ones, you can still see the protected ones also here. Okay, making sure there are no compiler errors. So if I see h1 dot, I can still see tire brand because it is protected and you can still see that. Okay, so what can be inherited and what cannot be inherited is, all the private ones cannot be inherited. Anything that is protected or public ones can be inherited. So from a parent class to the child classes, you can inherit. In that, private you cannot inherit, only public or protected can be inherited. Any questions?
No, Bharat.
No, Bharat, same here. I'm good.
Okay. Okay. I'll just change this a little bit. I will go with a more understanding example. Here, I'll create one more example. We will see one more example of inheritance. I'm creating a new package. So, browser inheritance. Okay. We create a base class called browser. So we call browser as, like, we have Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer. They are all called browsers. Okay. So I have a base class called browser. So what are the common properties that a browser will have? So browser will have, normally it will have a public string. You will have HTML language. I'll give HTML version. So each browser will have its own HTML version. So you will have public string. It will support some CSS, cascading style sheets version. So, and it will have a public string. It will have some JavaScript, correct? So these are the main things that are present in a browser. Three things: HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. So you will have some every browser you can do this. So what are the functionalities that you can do for a browser? Public void, you can navigate to a site. So navigate is one of the thing. You can load some website, or you can navigate to some website. So that's what you can do, or you can move from one page to another page. So those are some of the behaviors that you can do. These are some of the states, which HTML version you are using, which CSS version you are using, which JavaScript version that you are using for that specific browser is something which is a state, and this is the behavior. So these are common things. Every browser or every type of browser has to use all these things, and every browser has to do navigate, correct? So if I create a new class, and which I call it as Google, Google Chrome as the class, and if I extends browser, means all the properties that are present in the browser, which are HTML version, CSS version, or all the methods that you do in the common browser is already inherited, and you don't need to write anything now. So because you inherited a common browser, common functionality, or common methodology, so you already made a certain level of browser to your browser, and you can create your own functionality. Like for example, in Google browser, you can also load videos. Okay, in normal browser you can only do browsing, but here you can also see videos. Then I can say public void see videos as one of the functionality for Google Chrome browser. In the second, I'm creating one more browser called Firefox. Firefox is one more browser for us, right? So I'm creating a Firefox browser. In the Firefox browser, and I am creating, apart from the common functionalities that I get from the normal browser. So I'm having a normal browser. Apart from the functionalities that I'm getting from a normal browser, I can see images here, I can see videos here, I can see images here. Okay, public void see images. Okay, so I can see an extra feature called images here. So this is the common browser. I can just do navigation up with all these things, plus addition in Firefox browser I can see images with all the things that are in the browser, plus in addition I can see in Chrome browser I can see videos. Okay, can I see the images in the Chrome browser? No. Can I see videos in the Firefox browser? No, because you don't have that functionality currently present in Firefox or in images in Google Chrome, correct? So means you have some base functionality, whatever that is the common functionality, plus you have some special functionalities for that specific browser that you have given it here. Here also you have the common functionality, and for this specific browser you have some specific functionality, and you have added it here. Okay, so now let's go and create new class, which I'm accessing this one now like a user. Okay, so we are testing it. So in the main, I'm creating a main method. So now if you see Firefox F1 is equal to new Firefox. So F1 dot, I can see CSS version coming from base, HTML version coming from base, JavaScript version coming from base, and I have navigate functionality coming from base. I can get C images that is not coming from the base, but I'm getting it from specifically from Firefox. This is the ones that are present in the common plus the additional one. So in the similar fashion, if I go and create an instance of Google Chrome GC1 is equal to new Google Chrome. So then I put GC1 dot. See, now I get CSS, HTML, JavaScript. I get navigate. I see C videos. I don't see C images because that's not present in this. So I get the base functionality plus one additional function that is specific to the Chrome browser and that is not present as part of the common browsers. So what is the advantage by using inheritance? All the common functionality that we have is kept into the common class which is called browser, and we can access to multiple classes which has the same common functionality plus some additional functionality. So that's where you can use inheritance, where if you want to keep all the functionality at one place, at one common parent which can be inherited, so that common parent is called common object which is called browser now, and then you can inherit all the common things, and if you want any specific you can write it here as part of that specific functionality or specific implementation. That will be very good usage of using inheritance in even in testing projects. Any questions?
No, I'm good, Bharat.
I'm good too.
Uma?
I'm I'm good, Bharat.
Okay. Okay, let's make it more complex. Okay. Can I create browser b1 is equal to new Firefox browser? Like this, browser b1 equal to new Firefox. Can a browser be a Firefox browser? Can a browser be a Chrome browser? Yes, this is possible. Browser b2 is equal to new Chrome browser. Can a browser, can a browser be a Chrome or okay, Google Chrome, right? So I can create like this also. Why? So my browser, whatever the browser that I have, whatever the functionality that I have is completely present in Firefox browser, correct? I have everything that is present in browser is completely present in Firefox browser. It is completely present in Chrome browser. Can I create a object of browser using a Firefox class or an object of browser using a Google Chrome class? Yes, still I can create it. Okay. So I can create browser b1 is equal to new Firefox and browser b2 is equal to new Chrome, new Google Chrome. Because here if you see on the left hand side, the browser is nothing but it is telling the definition. I mean, like from where you are getting the methods and functions. That is from this class. You have like 3 methods and one function, and from where you should call the functions or the implementation, you should call it from Firefox. So if I say b1 dot, you see CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and then I see navigate, but I don't see images because the left hand side, the browser is just telling what type of methods or what type of variable should be present in the should you get for this object. Okay, this is the object. The type of the object is browser. When I say type of the object is browser, what is the type? The type is nothing but I have three variables and one function, so that defines the type. So this variable, the type of the variable is type browser, that is of this type, which makes that as three variables and one function. Okay, on the left hand side. On the right hand side, you are telling get all these functions from not from browser but get it from Firefox. How can I get it from Firefox? It is already extended from Firefox, so you have all the functionality that is present in Firefox anyway. So get it from Firefox and not from the browser. So it will go, instead of getting from the browser, it will get it from Firefox. What is the advantage? We will see the advantage also, but for now I'm just telling you can also do like this. Okay. Here also the type is still from browser, but you are getting all the functionality from Chrome. Okay. Why you can do like this? For example, I have a browser, I have a navigate functionality. I say I have a public void default load functionality. Okay. I have public void get some info. Okay, get some info functionality. You have some 3 or 4 methods within the base browser. Okay, so and here the implementation is sysout. It is called default load. Means by default you are having if you call this if you inherit this and you do this method, it will do a default load. Okay, so while doing the base functionality or creating a common browser, someone has created, you have not created, someone has created these three variables and these three things, and they have set some values for this. For example, any browser should use HTML version 5.0. Any browser should use CSS version 3.0. Any browser should use JavaScript version like say 10.0. So you should only, these are the common things that you should use. For example, my Google Chrome is not supporting now 5.0 because now I have upgraded or something has been updated. Now I am using 5.5, HTML version 5.5. Okay. So can I have HTML version 5.5 updated here? Yes, you can do that. How? I can create the same variable, public string JavaScript, same thing. Here another same variable that is present without any change or name, nothing. I can mark it as 10.5 here. Okay, that means you are overriding, you are not, it's not overloading, it's overriding. You are trying to override the base one with the new functionality that is present here. You are trying to override it. So means you have not, you are telling that the Chrome that I'm having, the browser, it is not using the 10.0 that is present in the common browser. I am overriding that variable or that function with 10.5. This is my current thing. In the same way, I'm not having the same default load that this function is providing to me. I'm having a different function, so which is Chrome specific load. Okay, load. So means I have I have overridden one. You can do complete overriding or whatever it is, but here I'm doing only one override, that is JavaScript 10.0. So which is not, I'm not following the standard. I am following the rest to common, but I am having one which is separate from the common. So I have to update this one with the new version that I wanted. So what I did, instead of having this one, I override it with the same name, everything same, which is present from the parent class. In the child class, I have the same variable, but a different value. So when I call now it makes a lot of difference. When I say browser b1 is equal to new browser, so new browser, and when I say new browser, if I say b1 dot, and if I try to get now the JavaScript version, okay, if I try to get JavaScript version, and if I try to get JavaScript version the way that we have created this one, okay, so here, so it is b2.javascript. Okay, now let's run this. So sorry, Google Chrome has, okay, let's use the method now for okay. Okay, I'll find out variable overriding. I think I did not get updated. There's some problem. I'll just check. But if you see methods here, methods are overloaded. See here. Okay, I've created a instance of a browser. browser b1 means I'm telling now browser b1 is equal. If I say browser b1 means I'll have 3 variables and 3 functions, and where should I get those functionality? Browser b1 is equal to new browser means I should get the implementation also from the browser. So now I get 3 variables, that is 5, 3, 10, and then the implementation of these 3 methods from the browser only. So when I call b1.default load, that's why it got default load, because the implementation that is present in the browser is default load, and it just printed out this value. In the second example, browser b2, still the structure of b2 is from browser only, means I should have 3 functions, 3 variables, 3 functions, so that is common. But the implementation that I am asking is not from here, I should get it from Google Chrome. So in that, while getting it from the Google Chrome, I have 3 variables. If you see here, I have three variables which are coming from here, but in that JavaScript is overridden here. Means you have overridden the base one, the common one, with something specific here. And what else you have overridden? You have default load function you have overridden. Means here, instead of default load, the same function name, but you have given a different implementation here, because you did not like the base implementation, the one that is present in the base class, you did not like it because you are following all the common standards. But this one, the one that is present here, like 80% you can follow, but 20% is not up to your standards. So what you are trying to do, you are changing the base load, base functionality with your specific implementation. But when you are calling an object, you are telling that you create an object of type browser only, which needs 3 functions and 3 methods and 3 variables, but don't get the implementation from here, get it from here. Then what this will do is, it will take CSS version from here, it will take HTML version from here, but JavaScript version it will not take from here, it will take it from here, because it is overridden. If this get some info will still take it from here, navigate will take from here, the default load it will not take it from here, it will take it from here, because it's still overridden. How the overridden it will work? The base class and the parent class has a same method name. It is the same method name. See here, default load and default load, and you have a different implementation. The implementation here is default implementation, the implementation here is some specific implementation. And when you just try to create an instance of this one using this Chrome, you will get the overridden functionality and not the base functionality. So you are having the same method name, but based on the way you create an object, you create an object with new browser, you will get it from here. If you create the object from here, you will get this implementation. So that's called another polymorphism, which is called overriding the same function or same variable present in the base class from the parent class to the child class. So you are trying to override the one that you don't like in the base from the parent. Any questions?
No, Bharat.
No, Bharat.
Seriously? If I am damn good or
No, we understood actually.
okay. So most of the times you see in Java like this. Don't get confused. I don't see why Google Chrome's GC is equal to new Google Chrome. It is not. So because of polymorphism, inheritance, it will change like anything pretty much. Why? Because a browser, if you want in runtime, the browser can be anything, because you wanted to, like, say, for in testing also, for example, we see we have to test it in Firefox, Chrome, and then or Internet Explorer or Safari, correct? So when we are testing in Chrome, Safari, Firefox, the common thing is still browser. The browser will have find element. So pretty much everything is common. But what changes? The implementation of that will be changed based on the find element that you find it in Firefox. It is a different way to find an element in Firefox. That's okay, because the implementation is different. The way that you find element in Google Chrome is different, because you have overridden all the base functionality in all the parent functionality in the child classes, such that your implementation is different, and you can have your own implementation. So you're just trying to override the base class in the child class, whatever that is present in the parent class. So you can just do that, and you can create these variables. You can create a object browser b1 equal to new browser, which is like this. You can also create an object browser b equal to new Chrome browser with Chrome, and you can also create a browser with new Firefox instance also, but you will get the implementation of the Firefox that is overridden if overridden. Okay, if you have overridden with the same function name or same variable, you will get the overridden functionality. If you have not overridden, you will still get the base class things. So this is inheritance. Any questions? Clear?
Yeah.
Yes, Bharat.
I prefer you read, because you'll have a lot of questions when you go and read. So just read. It's very, very important. Inheritance. For a tester, I would still, how much we use is based on how much we understood. So if I'm creating a project, I use a lot of inheritance and a lot of things because I tend to keep code less with very good practices. Because if you're creating all the common functionality at one place and you're using it at many places, means you're maintaining your code at one place and you're making sure all the common functionality is served from here. Okay, you don't try to create the same functionality repeated everywhere. You're trying to create a common thing until or unless you don't like the common thing, and if you want to change it, you can still go ahead and change it. But 90% of the times we don't change, right? So means you are using maximum reusability by using a concept called inheritance. Okay, so if you want to reuse your code mostly, it's very good practice to follow inheritance methodologies. Okay, what if I don't want to allow someone to inherit at all? Like I don't want this to be inherited, or I don't want this class to be inherited. So I can make many things called final. If I say final here, right, I can stop inheritance of classes. Like if you see here, I can stop inheritance. If you don't want one class that you have created to be inherited by some other class, you can just make it as final here and stop the inheritance. Means this class cannot be inherited at all. So there is no way you can inherit it. So if you just mark it as final here, that class is marked as not inherited. I mean, you cannot inherit it. If you don't want method to be overridden, I mean, like the same functionality, this functionality is like this is a standard and there is no way you can change it, then you can make it as final. So if I make it as final, right, there is no way that you can override that functionality. So by default, you will get an error here. You cannot overload that. I mean, override that functionality. That means it's standard. That is not allowed to change at all. So if you want to make your things as standard and no one should change it, you can mark them as final. Final. If you mark them as final, there is no inheritance. There is no overriding, yeah, and these will become constants. If you put final here, this will become constants. Constants is you cannot change it. Like you cannot change the, once you assign a value to a constant like 5.0, this is standard. This 5.0 cannot be changed at any point of time. You cannot change that at any place. So um, so that's how, if you want to change, if you want to stop overriding, or if you want to stop getting inherited, or if you want to stop making a variable change, you can make everything as final such that those cannot be changed at all. Okay, that final key is used to stop inheritance or making a constant or stopping overriding. So everything is done by one keyword, final, and based on the place, again, like polymorphism has said, based on the place it does its own operation. If you give it a class level, it stops inheritance. If you give it as a method level, it will stop overloading, I mean overriding. If you give it as a variable level, it will stop changing the value. It will become a constant. So you can also do that. Okay, so there are two other concepts which I want you guys to read and come to the next class. So the one thing called interface. What is interface? What is the difference between inheritance and interfaces? Okay, and the second one called abstract classes. There is something called abstract classes. So what are the abstract classes and what are interfaces? So you just read and come. both interfaces and abstract classes. And what is the difference? I'll just ask like in the next class. Like first thing we need to understand what is the difference between inheritance and what is the difference between interfaces, and what is abstract classes and how they are different from interfaces. So three things. One is inheritance, and there is something called the last one that is leftover abstraction, right? That can be done in abstract classes. Abstract classes we call. So the abstract classes, interfaces, and inheritance. What is the difference between all three? Okay, so just read this, but I'll explain anyway in the next class. But it's good to have an understanding and then come and I'll teach more. So today we have discussed three concepts. One is encapsulating the data. Encapsulating the data is nothing but you are trying to hide the data within the classes by using a private variable. But if you want to give access to those variables, you can create two methods. One is getter and setter, and you can set the access or get the access. So you can do both. The second one that we have seen is polymorphism. There are different types. We have seen like a plus symbol can be morphed as adding two strings or adding two numbers. A method can be overloaded by having the same method name for multiple purposes, like adding two strings or adding two numbers. A method can be overridden based on the call that you wanted to do. You can see the overloaded method, the base implementation or the other implementation. A class can be polymorphed, like say you can change this browser to a Firefox browser or Chrome browser. Based in the runtime, it will just change it to Firefox or Chrome or anything. Pretty much you can do pretty much polymorphism anywhere. A final keyword getting polymorphed, like based on that it will do like its access, whether it's top inheritance or anything. So that's all polymorphism. One word or one phrase or anything taking multiple shapes is nothing but polymorphism. The third one is inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but you are getting the properties of the parent to the child. So you can get the all the properties or some of the properties. The sum is nothing but private. You cannot get the private properties to the child. You can either create an object of a child using the child object itself, browser b1 equal to new browser, or you can create an object of the child, object of the parent using the child properties. In that case, you will get the overridden functionality. All these things. Do you have any questions? Sid?
No, Bharat.
Okay. So in the next class, we'll discuss interfaces and abstract classes, but I need a date within this week because it's getting too delayed. I don't want to get even 2 classes is good with me. Okay. Let me stop the recording.